The other divinity on YouTube asks, cats or dogs? I would have to say dogs, but it's a close race. What I always say is that dogs are better than cats, but dogs are like 99.5% good, whereas cats are 99% good. So it's a very close race, but I think dogs, you know, get the win because they're just better animals. They're more loyal. They're generally speaking going to be less likely to be an asshole. What is your hottest food take? I think chocolate is fairly overrated. I understand that it's good. It's a pretty high tier food, but I think it's fairly overrated. I think people hype it up way too goddamn much. Like getting like double, triple chocolate on chocolate on chocolate. I don't understand that shit. Do you draw a lot or just sometimes for thumbnails? So like I said before, I have been drawing for as long as I can remember until recently. I've never done any formal training, never gone to school for it. The art classes we had in school were bullshit. I've essentially just self-taught myself everything I know, which has led to my downfall. Yeah. Welcome back to the third and hopefully final installment of the 35K Q&A. I thought that this would be a one and done video, at the very least like a two-parter, but now apparently it's a three-parter, and I don't know how interesting that is to anybody. I'm certainly over it by now, but we're gonna see if we can finish it up today. It's not a whole lot left that we have to do, and there's a lot of cool stuff as well, things that I'm interested in a lot, so I hope you will all enjoy it. First up, we've got from Suck My PP 19. You'd imagine Suck My PP's 0 through 18 were taken. Asked, what video games do you play? That is quite the broad question. The easiest answer is I like video games that require me to develop a skill of some kind. So whatever the game is, as long as I can feel like I'm getting better at it, I'm going to enjoy it more. That being said, story-based games, casual games, not the biggest fan of those. I like competitive games. Either I could be competitive like on my own or multiplayer. When it comes to the types of video games within that purview, I think my favorite games of all time, like the game type, I guess, would be roguelikes or roguelites. So the games where, you know, you go for as long as you can, you die and you start over. You make some progress in a roguelite, or if you're playing a true roguelike, you just start over with nothing, you know, gained except for the knowledge and skill from having, you know, done the previous run. So I think in that realm, my favorite roguelite will definitely be Risk of Rain 2. I've got 575.8 hours in that game. I have not played much since the DLC. I did get the DLC, and I was playing a little bit some time ago, but that fell off as Multiverses came out, which is a game we'll talk about as well. But yeah, so Risk of Rain 2 would probably be my favorite in the roguelite realm. Also, Synthetic was a game I liked a lot. Another roguelite. This is a top-down tactical shooter with like reload mechanics and headshot mechanics and heat for your weapon and all this kind of stuff. There's also the second one, which I've played a little bit. Not particularly super excited about that, though. Risk of Rain 2, definitely one of my favorites. What I like to do in this game is god runs. I try to get to 20 plus waves and then obliterate. Not a big fan of fighting Mithrix. I find the fight to be really boring, and the stage to get to the fight also incredibly boring. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that's like roguelites. That's one. Number two, in the realm of competitive games, will usually be online competitive games. So I have, unfortunately, played a lot of League of Legends in my time. That was when I was still in high school until a little bit afterward. I wasted a lot of time and money in that godforsaken game, and I will never play it again. That game almost ruined my life, and fuck it. However, what's unfortunate about that is that I do actually like the character design in those games, in the Riot Games umbrella. So games like Valorant, I think the agents are pretty cool in their design, at least aesthetically speaking. I'm hoping the Riot fighter is not going to be too weird or too difficult. They want it to be better for like people who've never played a fighting game, and apparently it's going to have more controls similar to Smash, even though it's a traditional 2D, like not platform fighter. So that'll be interesting. But I've also played a lot of CSGO, and of course Valorant when that came out, though not as much anymore. I've got boomer eyes, a genetic condition called keratoconus. Google it if you want to hear about that. It makes it hard to like notice things I need to notice in the game, hold angles, because I'm blinking all the time. My allergies, sinus issues don't help with that either. So not really playing a lot of those. Of course, I played a lot of PUBG when it was first out and the only Battle Royale, which was really cool. Warzone is whatever. Ever since then, fuck Fortnite and building. Now there's no build, but I'll never play one of those games again. Probably, because I just don't care enough. When it comes to competitive games, I like 1v1 a lot. I'm not a big fan of team-based games. So Rocket League is a big one for me. I played Rocket League for 881 hours. 881 hours. as you can see here. 1v1 is my primary game mode. I got to the 3rd highest rank in Rocket League in all 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3. I always forget what the names. I think it's the diamond one. Yeah, this one. I've gotten to, I guess, diamond, whatever this is, in 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3, and that's all solo queue. So for 2v2 and 3v3, it's all solo queue as well. I'm not queuing with other people, but 1v1 is my primary game mode, and I'm a big fan of it. The reason why I like this game a lot is because, 1, you can play it 1v1, 2, it's football, which I like a lot. Generally speaking, I kind of have a genetic, code to make that the case. And also, it's physics-based. I'm a really big fan of physics-based games. Now, of course, the physics don't have to be realistic to, real-life physics, but there are physics in games like this, and I find that to be pretty fun. I find it to be pretty cool. So that's neat. And outside of that, fighting games, I guess, are kind of cool. It's the same thing I've said every single time this topic comes up. People always hear about my gripes when it comes to video games, about the things that I find interesting, the things that I find boring. So people are like, oh my god, if you like 1v1, why not fighting games? Why not fighting games? Why not fighting games? The reason for that is because a lot of the fighting games, well, first of all, I want to play the game that's popular. I don't want to play an online competitive game that has like 2 people playing it. That seems really boring. So I want the game to be popular, unfortunately. That's number 1. Number 2, a lot of the popular fighting games, like, what is it, Tekken, Guilty Gear Strive, whatever, are traditional fighters, i.e. they require more effort to play. There's more inputs, there's more mechanical skill required. And I have just never liked traditional fighting game inputs of like the up B, X, Y, quarter, half circle turn, and then you do a single move and you have to do that a billion times. I do not give a fuck. I cannot care about that kind of input scheme, which is why Multiverses came out recently. I've got 83 hours in it already. I'm a big fan. Now, of course, I don't give a shit about the WBIP. I don't care really about any of the characters in the game. I like the mechanics of the game. I would play Smash Ultimate if it wasn't only on the Switch. If I could play it on PC, I would do that. I have a Switch right there, but, switching my input to HDMI to be able to play on the Switch, and I just don't care. I just don't want to do that. It's too much effort. So just being able to boot it up on my PC is preferable, and Multiverses does that. And of course, Multiverses is a 2v2 game, but I play it in 1v1 because I'm a 1v1 purist, and I hate myself, apparently, because the game is not centered around 1v1, it's centered around 2v2, meaning that I'm always going to be playing in a diminished state. Exciting stuff. I'm currently maining Arya, just because I like her kit. I don't know anything about Game of Thrones. But yeah, that's that, I guess. Then outside of that, what other garbage games we have in here? I don't really give a shit about Souls-likes. I'm sorry, everybody out there. RNGs are too much for my tiny brain to worry about. At a certain point, there's too many options, too many things I have to do, and my brain just falls apart because ADHD can't do that, unfortunately. Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero are probably my favorite games of all time. And the reason for this, and you might be like wondering, like, oh, well, if you like competitive games, if you like online games, if you don't like story-based games, then why the fuck do you like Subnautica? This game is literally a single-player story game. Well, the reason why is because it just ticks a lot of boxes for me when it comes to the things that I like. I really like marine biology. I like the ocean. I like fictional marine biology. Crafting games are okay. I played Minecraft when it first came out in 2009 for like a year or two, and it was only creative. And then also when it became some survival shit, they started fucking around. It's not a horror game. This is a terror game. This game is not made to be scary. It's just scary because you're in the ocean, and the ocean is scary. Some of the elements are, puffed up a little bit to make them a little bit spookier. But generally speaking, it's not built around being scary. It just happens to be. So yeah, and also there's exploration involved in this game, and I like exploration a lot in video games. That's like, for Elden Ring, I really enjoyed the exploration element of Elden Ring. I liked looking at the new landscapes and the things that there were to see. It just happened to be that the gameplay was the stepping stone I needed to cross in order to get to the new areas. And it's just not worth it for me to do that, because I don't really care too much for the core Souls-like game loop that much. It's just not for me. Apparently I've got 50 hours in it, though. 380 hours in Counter-Strike. Wow. And then other than that, I'm a big fan of speedrunning, generally speaking. I think speedrunning is very cool. I speedrun Super Mario 64. I speedran a ROM hack of it, and there's going to be some questions about that coming up. So we'll get to that later. But that's that, I guess. Next up, we've got Artie on Discord asks, favorite music artists and games of all time. I've already went over the games one, kind of. But when it comes to favorite music artists, It's too many to list. There's way too many to list. I've never been the type of person to like get super fixated on a specific band or producer or musician or artist or whatever. Like when I listen to music, I'm not trying to find out about the actual artist. I'm just trying to give them my money, listen to their music, and also shout their music out now, I guess, because I have a community to my community. That's it. I'm not like looking into the bios of, ooh, what is this guy and what does he do? That's just not the kind of person I am because there's too much music I'm listening to. Generally speaking, I have a bunch of different genres that I cycle through, that I'll listen to like one genre for a while, and then I'll move to another one for a while, and I'll move to another one for a while. Those genres include hip-hop, rap, trap, vapor wave, funk, like the actual OG funk, not the drift funk like in all the Giga Chad memes. Although that stuff is also whatever. Like chill hop, I was listening to like Freddie Joachim, Jay Dilla, all those people. Essentially lo-fi hip-hop before lo-fi hip-hop was a thing. More like chill hop, though. Though obviously they laid the groundwork for that to be the case. What else we got in here? Some more ignorant kind of industrial trap stuff like Slickback I've been really enjoying. Lo-fi house as well, a big one. Industrial house, deep house, some techno shit as well. Dub techno. There's a whole lot of stuff. Essentially electronic music. And every single possible subgenre under it, I'm probably going to have some experience with. But I guess those are the main ones, and I usually cycle through them. So the best way to get the answer to that question is to watch my streams, because I listen to music on stream. I feel like there's more I could say about that. Oh, so essentially it's all going to be instrumentals. I'm not a big fan of lyrics outside of rap music. Like, I don't care about singing or any of this kind of shit. I'm not listening to, like, Ariana Grande or whatever. It's just not happening. I'm sorry. Or, like, Adele. Like, no thank you. Also, not a big fan of guitar. I listened almost exclusively to, like, metal, rock, alternative, post-hardcore, etc., when I was in middle school, and I guess I overdosed then because I do not care for it anymore. So, I'm just not a big fan of guitar, generally speaking, anymore. I like electronic music. I like synthetic instruments. I'm a big fan of all of that. Now, of course, you can sample lyrics in music, and I listen to a lot of music that samples lyrics, but usually those lyrics end up being like another instrument in the mix rather than, the focal point. A lot of, like, say, mainstream music like Ariana Grande, the vocals are the focal point of the song, and the production that goes into the beat in the background is secondary for the most part. It's meant to buttress, it's meant to lift up and put a spotlight on the vocals, and that's just not the kind of shit I'm interested in. I like it when the vocals are more of like an instrument in the mix, unless it's rap music. Because I've been listening to hip hop and rap for as longer than I can remember, mostly because my mom and dad and the music they would listen to. Because my mom has less of one, but both of my parents, my dad's music taste is more extensive as far as I'm aware. But both of my parents have always been very into music and also talking a lot about and sharing a lot of their music with me. A big way that I got into a lot of the music genres that I'm now into as well has been my dad specifically. My dad for a while was like working on fixing electronics. He was also like into audio stuff a lot. He wasn't like a producer or whatever, but he would get a whole bunch of CDs and whatnot, make mixtapes and stuff like that for himself. And he would also make mixtapes for me and my sister, which was really cool. He would put a bunch of different music from a bunch of different genres on CDs that he would burn himself. And we also had Walkman, CD Walkman, not the tapes. For any of you Zoomers out there, this is what those are, because I know I'm dating myself a little bit by saying this. It's stuff like this. I had a baby blue one where you would have, it's like the iPhone, but way back when. You would have this thing and you'd have to put a CD in it, and then you could listen to music on the go. It's like what Shinji uses in Evangelion, except not for tapes. These use cassette tapes. I had the one for CDs. Nuts. Heh. And that was really cool because that gave me like a wide variety of music to listen to on my own time, which I think really helped me develop my interest in music overall, which I really appreciate my dad and mom for doing. Pretty cool. Other than that, I don't know that there's much else to say. I think there's like more pointed questions later on as well. That might be some repeats actually. Whoopsie. Next up, we've got some speedrun related questions. IKM or LKM dude on Discord. What caused you to start wanting to speedrunning Super Mario 64? That would be none other than Simply, who is a 120-star speedrunner for Super Mario 64, content creator, very cool guy, friend of the show. He previously held the world record in 120-star, is still incredibly good. Big fan of that guy. I was browsing Twitch because I was bored one day, and I wasn't looking for speedruns. I was just looking at the directory. Twitch was a lot different back then as well, the way it was set up. I was just looking through the directory, and I was like, oh, people are playing SM64? What's that about? So I clicked that, and then I noticed Simply among the other people that were playing SM64, and I was like, oh, speedruns? That seems interesting. So I started watching that, and then I got hooked, and then I started watching Cheese, and then from Cheese and Simply, I found a whole bunch of different people, Punkation, Siglemic, you got Liam, you got, Batora, and all these different people, and that was really cool to me, and I really enjoyed watching a lot of that. I watched Cheese a lot as well, and he got, before he had a world record ever, and seeing, his growth from then has been absurd. That man is an absolute mastermind at 120 star. So that is what inspired me to do it. I played Super Mario 64 when I was a kid, casually. My dad did as well. My dad was a gamer. He's a big Nintendo nerd. Not a super big Nintendo nerd, but he likes them. And SM64 was one of his, preferred games of the time, so we would play that together. And I think I beat it. I don't remember if I got 120 stars when I was a kid, but I know I beat the game. I know I got at least 70, because that's how many you need to beat the game without doing any glitches that I had no idea existed back then. So then I decided to look into doing that, and I think there's more to that we'll get to, so I'm going to hold it off on there. But that's what got me into wanting to speedrun it. Next up, we've got Beelzebuzz on Twitter, who asks, do you have a favorite star to collect in Mario 64? It's a tie between Bowser and the Fire Sea Reds and Wet Dry World 100 plus Reds. Those are the 2 stars that I'm always going back to. The 2 stars I'm always going back to just for fun or for hand warmers, or if I'm getting bored or annoyed with whatever I'm practicing, I'll switch to those for a breath of fresh air. And generally speaking, I think the stars also look cool. It's a neat, amount of stuff to do. For Bowser and the Fire Sea, I'm always going for, if I can anyway, I'm always going for Lava Booster Lielis, because I think that movement is sick as fuck. And I get it fairly often. And in Wet Dry World 100 plus Reds, I'm usually trying to go pretty fast as well. But there's a bunch of other ones too. I really like the Metal Cap star, the movement to get to it, and then the Metal Cap star itself from HMC to then is very neat. I'm a big fan of HMC 100, SSL 100, even though both of those are a pain in the ass. In practice anyway, they're pretty fun. They're difficult. Obviously, once I start doing them in a run, it's going to be a pain in the ass, but, what can you do? We'll see about that. But yeah, I've not even started doing runs yet. I'm learned up to star 100 out of 120 by this point. I've learned up to Snowman's Land 100 plus Reds. I just finished learning that last stream, actually. So I got to iron that one out, and then we can keep moving. I think I got 3 more stars to learn after that, and then I'm done with SL. Though I practice a shit ton, so I'll be on Snowman's Land for a month because I practice like a motherfucker. Because I'm in no rush to do runs. I'm fine with doing a whole bunch of practice. But I am excited to start doing runs. It'll be cool to see. Next up, we got Jacob on Patreon, who asks, will SR7 ever come back? Sadg. Well, some of you might not know what the hell that is. Star Revenge 7, Arc of Time, is a ROM hack of Super Mario 64 that I used to speedrun. Let me find that really quick. So I used to run 120 star. Look, it's me right here, number 4, with an hour, 58 minute, 26 second time for 120 star. I got bopped by Infinite Void. I think Cable and stuff was always in that position. Yeah, this is 4 years ago. My last run was submitted 2 years ago. Goddamn. Captain Bowser recently blew the fucking back walls off of this category. Got a 138.44, and apparently it's just really good movement. It's not even that many major changes to the route as far as I'm aware. But yeah, here's me. I was top 3 for a while, and then I got booted down to top 4, as you can see. But yeah, here it is. It's on my Twitch channel. Check that out. Old CONURE. A funny meme if I didn't do Gate Star yet. Gay Star. I could have just gone into Gate Star after that. I have a green screen. The setup is not as sleek as it is now. My hair is much shorter. I'm always wearing this hat because I was not a big fan of my hair at the time. So there's a bunch of shit going into this, and I've, muted this because I talk every now and again. This is, by the way, this is when around when I first started streaming. I think it was 6 months after I started streaming, I started doing this on stream. Back then, I knew I wanted to run Super Mario 64, the actual game, vanilla, which is what I'm practicing nowadays. But at the time, you had to play on CRT, critical race theory. And by critical race theory, I mean cathode ray tube televisions. Because if you didn't do that, you would get a lot of input delay. You want to play on Nintendo 64, the original console. I have my controller right here. It's a Hori mini pad, which is the only third-party controller people recommend ever playing with, but you should be playing with a standard OEM Nintendo 64. I just don't have the money to be doing all that because, you got to get that shit secondhand because they're not in production anymore. And the third-party remakes are garbage. But anyway, I essentially didn't have the ability to have a CRT TV, and the HDMI upscalers you could get for playing on monitor were not very good because you have a lot of input delay and you can't really be dealing with that. in a game like SM64. Playing on emulator doesn't really work because nobody cares about emulator times. Emulator is just faster because there's no lag. However, through a variety of history, nobody gives a shit about emulator times. Everybody plays on N64. That's just the way it works. Unfortunately, it's a bit of gatekeeping, but, you know, it is what it is. So I knew that I wanted to learn SM64, but I didn't want to learn it on emulator because in SM64, you're going to lag a lot because the console is a dinosaur, and that can actually lose you time. So you do all that you can to reduce the amount of lag that you get in order to be faster, and you can't really practice how to reduce lag on emulator because you're not getting lag. So anyway, I decided to run a ROM hack instead because I knew I could play that on my PC. The lag didn't matter because you're not playing this ROM hack on N64 anyway. I don't think it would actually be able to support it unless you modded your N64 or something. So I knew I could do that, so I did that instead. I found this ROM hack. So this ROM hack was created by Brodoot, who is an absolute mad lad and has made a lot of different ROM hacks. I found this ROM hack because Simply and Cheese, the aforementioned people that got me into SM64 speedrunning and speedrunning as a whole to begin with, were doing a blind race of it one day. They both decided to race each other in this game. I forget what the win condition was. I don't know if they got all 120 stars. If they did, that would have been absurd. But it was nuts. And it was a really long stream, and it was a lot of fun to watch. And, you know, some time passes. Eventually, I'm like, I'm bored as shit. What if I started learning this game? So then I did. What I liked a lot about me learning this game is that I actually routed it myself. So when it comes to the original Super Mario 64, you do not want to make your own movement for that game. You do not want to make your own routing for that game. That game has been like worked on by absolute super geniuses for a long time. There's very little new shit you can find, and there are already optimal things that you should be doing. So trying to make your own movement is not a good idea. And I understood that at the time, but I liked the idea of also routing a speed game, which I still do. I still find that very interesting. So I was like, okay, here's this game that already has a speed run. Like, people have already speed run this ROM hack, but it's not like super set in stone. So why don't I just route it myself? So I did, and it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of effort, and it was an interesting, you know, experience. I'm a big fan. And this is actually this is still my homebrewed routing. That's a little wonky and could be a lot better. If the question is, will you ever go back to SR7? The answer is yes, ideally. The idea is to play SM64 and do runs of SM64 for a while, and then eventually go back to polishing off like my, you know, rust and whatever, shaking off the rust in SR7 and trying to improve my time. I think that's a lot of fun, a cool idea, you know, the comeback or whatever. But who knows when that'll happen? That could be years from now. The world may never know. Because I know I want to take SM64 seriously, as I already have been. I've been practicing for like 2 years now, and I haven't even done a single run yet. So very obviously, I'm trying to be good at SM64, the original game. So I do want to get a really good time in that. So who knows how much time I'll dedicate to it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm a big fan. It's also, I think this ROM hack is probably okay for casual play as well. What's cool about this ROM hack is that for me anyway, not everybody likes this, but for me, what's cool about this ROM hack is that there's actually power-ups that you get within the game that give you different moves. So you don't start with being able to wall kick, you don't start with being able to triple jump, etc., etc. You have to get those as badges later on. I actually get one in this star right now, towards the end of it. And I just thought that was a cool idea. There's some like fun little glitches and exploits you can do to get around the fact that you can't wall kick, like in Volcanic Jungle Victim, the 3rd stage I go to in this run, or maybe the 5th or 4th, whichever it is. I think it's kind of Banjo-Kazooie-esque. I think that's neat. Not everybody likes it, but I thought it was cool because it like limits me and makes me have to think about how to play the game in different ways when I'm routing it myself. So that was what was interesting to me. And now I'm just trying to pad time until we get to the end of all this movement, until we get to finally unlocking the wall kick badge, because that's what you get here with 100 plus, what is the other thing you get? It's 100 coin, and then there's like some star hanging out. So now I can wall kick, where before I would just bonk off. Isn't that neat? So what I liked a lot was also routing 100 coin stars. When it comes to my favorite stars in SM64 now, the original game, they're all 100 coin stars. That's why I'm a 120 star runner. If I didn't like the idea of 100 coin stars, by the way, for those who don't know, you get 100 coins, you get a star. To get 120, you have to get all those 100 coin stars. I like those stars a lot, and if I didn't, I would be like a 70 star runner, or I'd be like a 16, 0, or 1 star runner. I'm a big fan of those, and routing them is also really cool, because you need to know what's the most efficient way to get this amount of coins, and how many coins you need before you can do this, blah, blah. It's really cool. Anyway, I feel like I've talked about this enough. It's a cool little ROM hack. I had a lot of fun. I got a 158.26 as my best time, it would seem. Baby Conure from the olden days. The ending of this is a bit annoying, though. It's just a stupid-ass puzzle, but what can you do? Look at me go. Fuck yeah, dude. It's about time I get a fucking time I deserve, dude. 1:58:26. Let's see. Speedrun.com. 120 star. I seem so excited. I had been doing runs for a while, I'm pretty sure. Actually, no, that's not actually true. Though I feel like I've like choked a lot of good runs and also just got not the great PBs. But yeah, this actually could have been world record at the time, but I fumbled the bag and died once and fucked up the final boss fight once as well without dying. Yeah, there's that. Pretty cool stuff, I think. Next up, we've got Woke Moralist on Discord. Tips for speedrunning noobs. I don't actually know. Generally speaking, you should probably try to get as good as you can at the base mechanics of the games that you're playing, but it really depends on what game you're playing. I can give some tips for Super Mario 64, and maybe those could transfer over to a game like Banjo-Kazooie or something, or another platform game. But if you're like speedrunning a JRPG or whatever, I have no idea like how to help you with that. I don't even know how that works. So generally speaking, it's a lot of intentional practice is usually pretty good to do. Maybe having some kind of a practice regimen is also helpful. But other than that, I don't actually know, because it just depends on the kind of game you're speedrunning. Next up, Jack on Patreon asks, are there any other games you'd like to speedrun in the future? Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie is the only other game that really comes to my mind when it comes to games I would want to put time into getting good at. I'm a big fan. I've watched a lot of the Banjo-Kazooie 100% speedruns in the past. It's a pretty cool game in my opinion. I really enjoyed it when I was playing it casually as a kid. I think it's a very nice game overall. And the speedrun also looks kind of neat, so it would be cool to learn. Other than that, I messed around with the idea of learning how to speedrun Subnautica, but it's not super interesting to me after I looked into all the shit you have to do in it. So there's really not a lot of other games I care to speedrun. I've tried to fuck around with other games though. Like I've tried to route the Herbs Sims in the City for the Game Boy Advance a long ass time ago. I got to the second chapter. Like I finished the second chapter in what I was routing. Turns out the time for any percent is 1:54:19 nowadays. This was a Game Boy Advance Sims game that has goals and things you have to accomplish. And I thought it was a lot of fun when I was a kid playing it casually, so I decided to fuck around and try to get a speedrun moving for it. Oh yeah, when I was first trying to route this game, nobody else had speedrun it before. I actually looked up on like Reddit or whatever if anybody else was looking into speedrunning it. And I actually found the Steve guy here, Steve Schlegel or whatever. And we actually ended up DMing on Skype or whatever it was at the time. But eventually, like, my interest in it fell off, but it seems like he kept it going. Because 5 years ago, he got a 2:13:10. And he might have gotten something else before then, which is kind of cool. And then ever since then, Curtissimo and Alakazam have also put in the time. That's kind of neat. But Banjo-Kazooie is the main one. Next up, we've got Lord Cow Nostril. What's something you're interested in / committed to mastery in to the same or a similar extent to Super Mario 64? Nothing. I'm pretty sure that's actually the correct answer to that question. There's not much else I can think of. Nothing else really jumps out at me other than things that I have yet to start doing. So like music production would be cool. Making a lot of different music. All of the music genres I talked about that I listened to in one of the previous questions would all be the genres I'd be interested in dabbling in, producing myself. I fucked around in music production in the past when I was in middle school, didn't stick with it. Then again, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago now, didn't stick with it. So I'm looking to maybe get a keyboard piano and learn how to play piano. And then maybe that'll make using DAWs like FL Studio a little bit more understandable, because I will have already learned an instrument. Also, piano is pretty chill. So maybe that at some point, but who knows when that'll ever happen because ADHD, depression. Drawing and art are also an interesting one, but those have fallen off for me. I've been drawing for as long as I can remember, and we're going to talk about this later in the questions as well. So maybe that in the future, because I'll probably go back to it at some point, though I'm pretty, off of it for now. Maybe multiverses, but probably not. I do want to get decent at multiverses and maybe be able to compete, at a competitive level in tournaments or whatever. But I don't know about that. I don't know how to get really good at a fighting game. I've never done it. I know how to get good at a speedrun. Even though I've never been exceptionally good, I know like what I need to do from the amount of content around it I have consumed and my own experience. But I do not know that for fighting games, like a platform fighter. So that'll probably be more difficult if I did try to do that. Next up, we got, what games do you play that you wouldn't mind losing in? From Theodore Wanacht. Super Mario 64. In order to speedrun a game, you have to be content with failure. You have to be respectful of failure even. You have to be understanding that you're going to fail. And that's what speedrunning is. It's losing over and over and over and over again until you finally get efficient, skillful, and patient enough to get really good runs. It's all part of the process. So that's the answer. Super Mario 64, I guess. Next up, we've got Master Flips on YouTube and IceTray1127 on Discord. What are some of your hobbies outside of streaming and any hobbies you've had since childhood that you keep up with? None. I'm a tremendously boring person. This is my life, okay? On stream days, I get up, brush my teeth, fuck your mom, make my bed, do the dishes, make a meal, eat it, get ready for stream, start stream, do that for 8 hours, decompress from stream, eat a meal, chill for a little bit, usually just vegetating, sleep. On days that I don't stream, I get up, brush my teeth, fuck your mom, make my bed, do the dishes and whatever other chores, walk/run, take a shower, make a meal, eat it, do whatever work I have to do for my content shit like making thumbnails or whatever, waste my time playing multiverses, go to bed, repeat. That's my life every other day. I gotta find something. That's for sure. When it comes to any hobbies you've had since childhood that you keep up with, probably art is the main and only one outside of listening to music, I guess. Though that feels weird to say it's a hobby, though I do listen to music more intently than maybe the average person. But art is definitely the one. Drawing, and I think there's more questions about that in just a bit, so we'll get into that then. So that's probably the one, though I don't really do it anymore for reasons we'll probably get into. Next up, we got Bot Bites on YouTube. Do you draw a lot or just sometimes for thumbnails? This was probably a Jaden Animations viewer asking this question because, like they say, or sometimes just for thumbnails. The only time I've ever drawn for a thumbnail is two of the Jaden Animations thumbnails. This one and this one. This one was the first one in particular. So since I put this Q&A up after I got an influx of subs from the Jaden Animations bump when this video went crazy on the algorithm, and I drew myself in Jaden's style because I thought that was a cool and fun idea. The only other time I've done that is I drew this custom Wojak for this thumbnail. But other than things like that, I drew myself in Innuendo Studios style for this thumbnail, which I thought was pretty cool. And that's about it. But that's probably why they're asking that. But I don't draw that much, no, anymore. So like I said before, I have been drawing for as long as I can remember, until recently. I've never done any formal training, never gone to school for it. The art classes we had in school were bullshit. I've essentially just self-taught myself everything I know, which has led to my downfall. Yeah, I have an interest in getting back into it, and I have an interest in diversifying my portfolio when it comes to the art styles that I am capable of, but I just don't have the mental energy to give a fuck about getting good at those, so I don't. But I think there's more about that we can get into in a moment. There's another question from BCR on Twitter. Asks, what inspires your art designs? What inspires your art designs? What a stupid fucking question. Literally nothing. I just draw shit. I've got a bunch of older sketchbooks around somewhere, but we'll see what we have here. I'll pick out some of my favorites from each one. All right, so we've got some stuff here. So these are old as shit. This was around when I first got a drawing tablet. It's not this one. Currently, I use a Wacom Intuos, whatever the fuck, but I don't really use it that much except for making emotes nowadays. But this is around when I first got a drawing tablet so I could start fucking around with digital art. At the time, I was very inspired by Alex Pardee and Dave Correa. So I started developing this kind of style because this was when I was in early high school, late middle school, when I was on my phone looking for wallpapers or whatever. And I ended up finding a picture of like an Easter Island head or whatever as like a phone wallpaper. This was a long ass time ago. I had a flip phone or something. And I thought that the style was cool, so I drew a nose that was similar to it. And then I just kept drawing noses and whatnot. And then, you know, I messed around with a lot of stuff like this. You'll notice that in a lot of my art, as we go through these, it's a lot of emphasis on noses and like body horror kind of stuff, I guess. It's a very procedurally generated kind of art style. This was one of my favorites. I actually drew this on the back of a diner placemat when I was out to a diner eating with my dad, because we would do that a lot, vibing. And I would always draw and chat, and I'm a big fan of it. I started with this face, like this nose, I'm pretty sure, and then built out from there. And then I built all this on top of it, and then I put these guys here. And then I took a picture of it with my phone, and then I did proper line work in digital using the sketch as the reference, and then colored it. And I think it's kind of neat. I don't know. This was in 2013, February, Poggers. Pretty neat. I'm a big fan of cell shading, mostly because I don't know how to do blend shading. On digital anyway, I should say. Here's this guy, more monochrome or whatever look. So we've got the big nose. This is probably where the thing started. And then I, build out from there. Essentially, I start with a nose, and then I do a very procedurally generated thing after that of a bunch of eyes, noses, mouths, teeth, whatever. I think this looks pretty nice, though. I think the colors are cool. We got this guy, who I think is pretty cool, from 2014. I even have this cool background. He's got a business suit. So this was also on a diner placemat. You start with a nose here, build out from there, classic. I would always end on shoulders like this because I don't know how to draw human anatomy because I never learned how. I never learned the fundamentals of how to draw anything, and it's all self-taught, so I can only do what I know how to do. So I have to make sacrifices, or else if I try to do some shit that I know how to do, I don't know how to do, I get mad and annoyed, and I get demotivated, lol, which has been one of my downfalls. And then we've got all these index card designs, which I thought were cool. So I had a bunch of index cards hanging around from school. So instead of doing actual schoolwork, I would draw shit. And this is all ballpoint pen. I was a big fan of drawing with ballpoint pen exclusively. My kind of art style, it's like a procedurally generated thing. I don't do sketches. I don't have an idea for what I want to draw when I start drawing. I just draw things, and whatever it turns into is what it is. So I would always just draw with ballpoint pen. I would have to fix mistakes in real time because it's permanent. I can't erase it, which I thought was kind of neat. And yeah, you can see there's a fairly standard pattern we're looking at here. Fairly neat, I think. So these are old as shit, or at least fairly old in the grand scheme of things. Then we got some stuff that's a bit newer, but still technically old. And we could just cycle through all these. I'll just quickly go through them all. So I stopped dating these for some reason. I don't know why. We got this guy. This is probably one of my favorites of this era. So this is all ballpoint pen as well. It's all colored ballpoint pen, like the multicolor ones I would use a lot. It's a wasp boy looking fun and stuff. So I'm fine with shading with pen and paper. I don't know how to do blend shading on digital at all. So I usually stick to cell shading on digital. But all of this is going to be ballpoint pen. I can't do this anymore, though, because I like to draw really small. But I can't do that anymore because my eyes have progressively gotten worse because I have keratoconus. Like, glasses don't help because it's not astigmatism and shit like that. So I can't really do this anymore because my eyes are just not good for it, which is a shame. But luckily, I'm not trying to draw much anyway, so whatever. I like this guy. He's cute. He's got dumb little teeth. This guy is neat as well. This is ugly. This was one of my favorites for a while. It's like a whale kind of guy. Like, that's the size he's supposed to be anyway. It's like a Leviathan sea creature. As you can see, he's grabbing a fish. Generally speaking, I'm not trying to make things out of what I'm drawing. It's like patterns that somehow turn into a thing. But yeah, there's some cool shit in here. This is old as shit. I don't know why this is in here. This is from 2014. This is mechanical pencil. Interesting stuff. A lot of different symbols and shapes, which I'm never doing shit with, it would seem. Pretty cool. And then after this, what do we have? All right, so here, this is actually a thing I did. What? Hello? A thing I did on pen and paper that I then brought into digital. And holy shit, my layer management was really bad. But yeah, it's all shaded and cell shading. I think it looks neat. I enjoy the shading I did for this. I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to shading. I just do things that kind of make sense intuitively to my brain. I think I get some of it right, surely, using a color palette generator. I also had a brief stint. This was when I was doing art on stream more, way back when. This is Demon Mario or whatever. This was for March 10th, a while back. On stream, I drew this. I just kind of made a fucked up Mario that I thought was cool. We've also got this guy, which I've always been a fan of. I've never finished it. All of these are technically unfinished, apparently. I didn't finish shading the skull here, but I'm a big fan of this one. I like how it turned out. It's very Subnautica inspired, if you couldn't tell. This is supposed to be a tuna to give you a sense of scale. We've also got this one. This is for the Oscars. Get it? Because it's like Oscar the Grouch, but also the Oscar Awards. Also, Kevin Hart's in a garbage can because he couldn't be the host at this time because he was being homophobic on the timeline or something. So I thought that was funny. Is the actual Oscar face. There's this one, which is also pen and paper that I brought onto digital. Never finished it. I could not figure out how to shade this shit. I think the palette is cool, though. This is probably my favorite of this era. I drew this on stream for Valentine's Day. So if you see, there's a little heart guy that got angled by the anglerfish here with the "you up" text. I thought that was kind of cute. Look, he's reaching for it, you see. But he got swindled. He got led astray. And also, he's got a duck. body for some reason, because I don't know how to draw anything like of actual substance when it comes to human anatomy. So, lol. I think it's pretty cool. It's probably my favorite from this era. Let me find the other shit. All right. And then we can, this is some of the more recent stuff within like the last several months to a year when I would have a random spurt of interest in drawing, usually on stream. Usually when someone's like, yeah, what about your art? Blah, 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 blah. And then I start talking about how I draw. So I give an example like, ooh, I start with a nose and then we build out the nose from there. And then usually we'll have this thing happen where there's like a swoop here and then you put an eyeball in it. And then you also make a mouth of some kind at some point. And then you do other blah, blah, blah. So this is a shrimp boy.sci, apparently. The cool thing I like about a lot of my art, not just these ones, even a lot of the older ones, is that depending on how you look at it, it turns into a different thing. So if you look at it from here, it looks like a shrimp guy. That was the original idea. Because like he looks like a mischievous shrimp guy. Because like the main eyeball you're looking at is going to be one of these two, based on the composition. Meaning that the main mouth is going to be this one. Because as human beings, we expect the mouth to be under the eyes. Like there's no reason why this would be the main mouth. It doesn't make any sense. However, if you turn him this way, well, then he looks like a guy with a boisterous guy with a big belly. Because this mouth becomes the main one. This eye, for me anyway, becomes the main eye. And then he's got like this big belly here. And, you know, instead of this face frowning before, now it's happy looking. And then if you turn him this way, he looks like he's very scared. Because now the main eyeball turns into this one, because it's very big and also on the top. And then the main mouth becomes this one, because it's the closest to this eye. And it's below it. And it looks like he's, you know, frowning or scared. And so does the eye. I think that's neat. And he looks like a fish guy. Like these look like flippers or whatever. Fins. That is a consistent theme in a lot of my art. And the reason for that is because, one, the way that I draw is very procedural. So that just ends up happening. And two, sometimes I'll notice it and then I'll, you know, play into it. We've also got this guy who I hate. I don't like the color scheme. Except I think there's one too many colors. But yeah, I drew this on stream. Also trying to give an example of how I draw. I think I started with this nose. So here he looks like a fish guy. And then here he looks like Patrick, to me anyway. Patrick Star running on his legs, screaming. Here he's also standing with the really lanky legs, kind of turning around looking at you. Then we also have this guy, which I never finished, who I started drawing, I think, with this mouth, and then went from there, and he looks like looks like GLaDOS from Portal. Like he's bound to the ceiling, hanging out. But also, if you flip him this way, he looks like he's holding his big belly and he's hunched over. But I never finished him. Kind of cool, though. Then we have this one, which is probably the best thing I've drawn in this era. Also drew this on stream. Where did this start? Oh, yeah, so here's an interesting example of how my art style works. I'll show you. So, when I drew this, I started with the mouth here, did all this stuff, obviously. Then I put this nose on it. I made this thing at the time as well. And then I went up here and did all this shit. And then I made this head thing with the ear. And then I gave him horns. These were initially horns. But then I realized that they kind of look like little feet. So I flipped them over and turned them into little feet. And then this became the standard orientation for him. And I put the little boots on him. So that when he's flipped over, he looks like this. He's got a little mutton chop and a sword and a finger and more horns. And then I never finished him, of course, classic. If you flip him over, he's also got treads, which is a working idea. That wasn't going to be the guaranteed final product, but the idea would be that he could flip over when it's more advantageous to use the treads or something like that, which I thought was cool. And the geometry and the composition, I think, looks nice. Also, he's going to be holding something here as well. Also, this minion. He's got a parasite. This guy. Because you can see he has the swirly eye. And he's got an AR-15. Then we got this thing more recently, which is just a bunch of shapes, some horns. Flip him this way, he looks different. Flip him this way, he looks, you know, whatever. There's also this guy, who, like this, kind of looks like a minion to me. I don't know what's up with the minions. Like this, he kind of looks like a goblin shark a little bit. Of course, it started with this nose and went from there. Never finished that either, though I like this color palette. And then there's this guy who I actually drew with my mouse randomly because I was teaching chat about how to wear high-waisted garments like skirts. And then I drew this guy. And yeah, that's about it. I don't really draw anymore. So the big problem that I have with drawing is that I never learned the fundamentals. I never learned the fundamentals about anatomy, lighting, perspective, all this kind of shit that you should probably learn first. And I instead self-taught myself a stylized version of that shit. So there came a time where I wanted to move past just drawing patterns all the time, like draw actual entities, actual things, actual beings. And I never learned how to draw arms, hands, human body, etc., in like the standard way, fundamentals, the foundation. And because of that, anytime I would try, I would usually fail, and I don't care enough to learn currently to learn how to actually do all that shit now. So anytime I would try, I would feel bad and then get annoyed and then stop drawing. So nowadays, anytime I start drawing, I literally just always feel bad. So I just don't do it. Because in order to draw again in a serious capacity, I would have to go back and learn the fundamentals, and I just don't have the mental energy or the care or even the time, it feels like, to do any of that. It doesn't seem particularly important to me because I'm more focused on my content shit because, you know, I have to live in this society and make money to do that. And I would never do art for a job. Fuck that shit. So yeah, that's that. We'll get there maybe one day. Who knows? Next up, would you ever set up an aquarium? If so, what would you stock it with? From Liam on YouTube. I used to have one. My dad was a big fan of fish tanks and stuff. He had saltwater and freshwater aquariums. I had one as well when I was a kid. It was kind of chill. What would I stock it with? I don't fucking know. I'm very interested in like channels like Serpa Design and stuff like that, who do terrariums, vivariums, aquariums, and all this kind of shit. Planted tanks seem really cool to me, like live plants in a tank like that. Not even like necessarily having a lot of fauna in it. Seems kind of cool. But I'll probably never do that. It's too much effort, too much time, too much money. Next up, we've got Jay the Visionary on YouTube. Do you play D&D? If yes, do you ever play with Vaush and Vermin? Could you tell us about your character? No. I have played D&D once. I did one campaign where Vaush was the DM, and that was like 4 sessions, I think. We didn't get to finish it. It was pretty fun. I played an Aarakocran monk. The monastic tradition was Way of the Soul Knife. It was kind of neat. He talked like that. Wait, no, he didn't talk like that. Wait, did he talk like that? Wait. The optical illusions remind me of the old Ducker Rabbit. Yeah, he talked like that. Sorry, I was just reading a thing in the chat because I needed to be able to do that, to do the accent. He talked like that. He was also a pirate because I thought that was funny. Anyway, it was whatever. The problem I have with D&D and tabletop RPGs in general is, one, RPGs are not like the biggest thing for me. I'm not super interested in them in a general sense. Though it is fun because it's a social thing to do. For 2, it's too much of a time commitment for me anyway. I'm really bad at managing my own time, so I would not want to be a part of a consistent campaign with other people because I don't want to be responsible for their time because I know that I am not even responsible with my own, so I don't want to like lump that onto them as well. So yeah, that's the big problem about it. I could easily play. Also, people are like, oh, why don't you play one-shots? Blah, blah, blah. I don't care enough, frankly. It's a cool idea, though. Respect to all the D&D nerds out there. Next up, we've got Mr. Carrot on YouTube. What gaming setup do you use? PC. For Super Mario 64 120 star, I play on my Nintendo 64, which runs S-Video from the Nintendo 64 to what's called a RetroTink 2X Mini, which is an HDMI upscaler that gives virtually 0 input lag, so I can play on my monitor. HDMI goes from that to my Elgato capture card. My Elgato capture card runs an HDMI to my monitor, and then I can play on there and also capture it. I might have missed some steps in there. Nobody cares. But yeah, that's about it. Other than that, I play on PC, but I don't really play that many games nowadays. Foob on Discord asks, have you ever played Deep Rock Galactic? No. Femboy Maycry and MT64 on Discord asks, favorite fighting game character and fighting game character archetype. I don't have one, because I'm not the biggest fan of fighting games, generally speaking. In Smash Ultimate, I played Wario. I got him to Elite Smash on ladder. In Smash 4 Wii U, I played Captain Falcon, was my main. Also Sheik, but more Captain Falcon. In Multiverses, I'm currently maining Arya. But when it comes to favorite game character archetype, I don't know enough about fighting games to know, really. So what I can tell you is that I don't like projectiles. I've never been good at playing characters that are meant to be playing around their projectiles. It just doesn't work in my brain. I like bruiser type, like beat 'em up characters. So like Arya Stark in Multiverses is pretty good for that because she has one projectile, but the projectile that she has is essentially just meant to facilitate more melee, which I think is cool. Also not super easy character to play. I've also played Harley Quinn in that game. Also fuck around with a little bit of Wonder Woman. Next up, we've got Foob once again on Discord. Do you like Star Wars? No. Never seen it. Never intend to. Osaweeb on YouTube asks, what would you say is your anime taste? To me personally, I enjoy early 2000s digital anime and 80s OAVs/movies. I'm not the biggest anime buff. Like, I watch it. Generally speaking, I like shonen anime a lot because I think it's fun and whatever. I don't know that I have a specific anime taste outside of that. I like fighting in anime. I like political intrigue in anime. I don't know. I'm not the biggest weeb, so I'm sorry. Also, Near on YouTube asks, you talk about anime a lot on streams. I really don't think I do. Do you watch anime? What's your favorite anime if so? Do I watch anime? Technically, yes. I wouldn't say I'm an anime enthusiast, but I do watch it. What is my favorite anime? Probably Hunter x Hunter. Yeah. I mean, I've seen a good amount recently. I've been trying to watch more media, so I have seen a decent amount recently, but I don't know. I just like fighting in anime. I think it's cool. Next up, we have Jinx Shinks on Twitter who asks, what's some music you really like? Is there any music that has good trans vibes to you? I've already answered the music I really like question. Any music that has good trans vibes? Literally any electronic music, because it's all made by trans women, whether they know it or not. Cosmic Orbit on Discord asks, what is the most niche music genre you listen to and how did you get into it? That's a difficult question and I don't actually know the answer to it. I listen to a lot of fairly noisy and like maybe not accessible music. The two that I can think of is like a No Tricks Point Never, Chuck Person, the kind of like very inaccessible vaporwave-esque plunderphonics type shit. Also, Slickback, which is like an industrial trap kind of noise, techno flavor, kind of in his own lane. Big fan of that guy. Bought a lot of his shit on Bandcamp. But I don't know what would be considered the most niche. All of the music I listen to is fairly not mainstream. So I guess it depends on what you mean by niche. I have no idea. I'm sorry. I'm really bad at answering these questions right now. Next up, we got Jose Reyes on YouTube who asks, what is your favorite Denzel Curry album or feature? Favorite album is probably the 13 EP. Bloodshed is probably my favorite song off that album, though all of the songs are good. Outside of that, if we look at his most recent project, Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, for that one, what is my favorite on that one? It's been a while since I've looked at it. Probably, I feel like The Last and X-Wing and Sanjuro really stuck out to me on Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. But the entire album, like front to back, is very good. All right, next up we've got Denim's friend of the show, Denino, on Twitter, who asks, how are you so hot and sexy and beautiful, haha, asking for a friend? Genetics, a mild amount of effort, and luck. That's really it. Also, she said, don't put this in the video, but I did it anyway. We've also got another friend of the show, Tibanuwu, on Twitter, who asks, out of all your intellectual bimbo brain cells, which one is your favorite and why? It's kind of you to suggest that I have any brain cells at all. But frankly, I can't answer this question because you've kind of answered it already. Why did I even put this fucking question here? What is your favorite type of sword? I don't fucking know. What do you think I know what swords are? Hello? We got Snail Grenade on YouTube who asks, do you play any instruments? No, but I would like to learn how to play piano like I've talked about before. Also, woodwind instruments are interesting, though I don't know that I care too much about learning them. But currently I don't play any instruments, no. I'm very boring, I understand. Do you love birds? Yes. Favorite bird? What is your favorite flavor of the Connie bird? Favorite bird ever? It's actually a different question. Also, thank you very much for these questions on YouTube, Crispy Bacon, on Twitter, Bo Shinsky, and Soul King Jareth. I guess when it comes to favorite conure, probably the turquoise green cheek conure. And then when it comes to favorite bird ever, probably cakes are the ones that jump to my head the most. And also the ones that are jumping a lot because they jump around a lot. Caique. That's how you spell that. The Cheese Lord and Kelsey on YouTube asks, what country are you from? The good old US of A, brother, man. You know it. You've seen it. You could tell. You could smell it on me. The freedom. My dad is from Honduras, which is a Latin American country around Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua. And he immigrated to the States when he was 18, like a mad lad. So half of me is that as well. My mom is white and from the US. So she could be literally anything, any mixture of white. Next up, the other divinity on YouTube asks, cats or dogs? I would have to say dogs, but it's a close race. What I always say is that dogs are better than cats, but dogs are like 99.5% good, whereas cats are 99% good. So it's a very close race, but I think dogs, get the win because they're just better animals in that 0.5% range. They're more loyal. They're less, overall, generally speaking, going to be less likely to be an asshole. Now, I will say that cats are really nice, and they don't have to be mean. I think a lot of the reasons why a lot of people's cats are mean is because they don't really take care of their cats the way they should, especially when they're super young. Like if you get like an adopted cat that didn't have a good early life, they can be, you know, having difficulties from that or whatnot. I think if you're able to, you know, treat a cat well and get to know them, you can get essentially to have them act like normal ass fucking cats. Because I think cats are usually not super standoffish, though obviously they're not as personable as dogs. But, you know, some cats can just be different. The cats I live with, Artemy is essentially like a dog himself. He's just a big cat that acts like a dog, kind of. And then Pigeon is adorable. So now we have, oh, this is what this was. The question of our time. And there's actually an image attached. The image is, how would a centaur wear pants? Like this, or this? And I think there's a variety of answers to this question. So you have to look into, why do human beings wear pants? Human beings wear pants, 1, to shield themselves from the elements, 2, to shield their genitalia from the public. Because we have decided over the years in society that being nude in public is not a thing that you should be doing, apparently. And I think that's a fair expectation to have of people when it comes to, like, the pelvic region. Though I am, you know, a big free the nipple kind of person. Like, I don't know why feminine people can't have titties out. Seems weird to me. And also for, like, sanitary purposes, because, like, imagine sitting on a park bench with your whole ass out, and somebody else was just there with their ass sweat. Like, what? No. No, thank you. I would rather people be wearing pants for that. That just sounds nasty. So, this option is not pants, because the centaur body, you know, just this torso, you're saying that these are just the legs, but on a horse, this isn't just the legs. The legs are here, the horse's body is here. So it makes no sense to have the bottom right be the one, so that one's out. Get fucked, ANCAPs, if this is a political compass. Then you have bottom left for the libertarian left-wingers, where the pants are on the front. But I don't know why a centaur's genitalia would be in the front here, because it makes sense they'd be back here like a standard horse. Usually the genitalia, the PP is going to be close to the butthole, and unless the butthole's up here, which I don't think it is, it's going to be back here. So this doesn't make any sense. So sorry for that one as well. So the only other two options are these two, and I think both of these are fine. Generally speaking, when it comes to making a garment, this one seems like the most utilitarian choice, because it covers the whole butt and the whole groin, and it would be easier to put on, I think. It would be very difficult to put on, obviously. But this seems like more annoying, because, like, how does this stay up? This stays on because you can get a belt, or the waistband can keep it on, like, the torso of the horse. Here, like, it's gonna slip down all the time, so that doesn't make any sense. So the winner is the top right. Yeah. I think my deductions are correct. Next up, we've got Jess and Xena on YouTube. Do you like snuggles? No, actually. I mean, they're fine, but I'm not going out of my way to get them. So I guess yes, but I'm not super excited to, like, try to get the snuggles. And generally speaking, I'm not trying to be touched by other human beings because I'm weird. So, like I've said many times before on stream, I have been voluntarily celibate for 6, almost 7 years now. So by choice, not in the dating or sex scene. And I'm also not that platonically affectionate either, never have been. So I'm vibing. It's not super important to me. So in that same amount of time, I haven't cuddled another human being. I've hugged people, like friends and family, but that's really it. You know, physical touch is not the most important for me when it comes to relationships, platonic or otherwise. Because I'm like some flavor of a romantic. I'm not the most touchy-feely in general when it comes to platonic friendships, though I will, like, hug my friends, but rarely. Usually, like, if somebody's leaving for, like, an extended period of time, or I haven't seen them in a while, but, you know, that's just me. Tomatoes Near asks on Twitter, what do you think about humanity's future? I'm a nihilistic optimist in that I'm very well aware that everything is going to hell in a handbasket very quickly. However, I have a certain kind of optimism for the strength of humans to survive, because we seem to be fairly good at that in spite of a variety of adversity. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a bunch of shit, and we need to be doing a lot of things that we're not currently doing in order to make the problems not be as bad. But generally speaking, I have a certain amount of optimism, though I don't let that optimism become naivete. I'm very aware that it requires a lot of work, you know, to see that to fruition. But generally speaking, that's my outlook. So we got Django Bun on Twitter. If you could only choose one, Artemy or Pigeon? Probably Pigeon, frankly. But I would not want to have to make that choice. The reasoning is I'm less allergic to Pigeon. I am more allergic to Artemy because he has fur and Pigeon doesn't. That's literally it. I enjoy both of them just as much. They are both good cats. But if I had to choose one and live with one, I would obviously pick the one that causes me less health repercussions. Because I've lived with allergies and sinus issues my entire life. Next up, we've got Soleil the Robot on Twitter, who asks, what's your opinion on either the economic inflation caused by the market crash in the 1920s or 30s or furry inflation? Pick wisely. I plead the fifth. The only one I know anything about, unfortunately, is furry inflation, because I know that it exists. When it comes to like inflation as a kink, I don't understand it. I don't get it. And I'm also not a furry. So like that doesn't really factor in either. But like I know inflation as like a kink exists. And I don't know enough about the economic inflation caused by the market crash in the 1920s and 30s to talk about that. So that's all I can really say. Next up, we've got a bunch of shit. Luna Afton and Zyrus on Discord, and then Mr. Carrot on YouTube. What is your opinion on furries? They exist. It is what it is. I understand why people like to anthropomorphize animals, but I'm not one. So, you know, it is what it is. The furthest I go is like Kimono Mimi. So for those of you who don't know, it's just a human that happens to have usually ears and a tail. So like cat girls are the famous ones. If you were to talk to a furry and be like, yeah, I'm a furry too, I like cat girls, they would laugh at you because that's not furry. That's like Babby's first. That's like, maybe it's like a gateway drug, but that's not furry. They would laugh at you if you said that. When it comes to like fully anthropomorphized animals and furries in that sense, no, not a big fan. I can appreciate the art, at least, to an extent. A lot of these furry artists are kind of crazy. But like on the more tame side of furry art, I can appreciate the art because I like art. But when it comes to me being interested in furry shit beyond that, not really, no. Dalek Emperor on Discord asks, how tall are you? 5'5". Would you like my social security number as well? Maybe my shoe size. And then that's it, except for a bunch of other ones that I didn't take screenshots of because I didn't really care to do that. So I'm just going to speedrun those really quick. Wesley Mills on YouTube asks, what is your hottest food take? I think chocolate is fairly overrated. I understand that it's good. It's a pretty high-tiered food, but I think it's fairly overrated. I think people hype it up way too goddamn much. Like getting like double, triple chocolate on chocolate on chocolate. I don't understand that shit. Chocolate to me is usually best enjoyed not as the main event, but rather a supplement to the broader dish. So for instance, when it comes to one of my favorite desserts and the best flavor of ice cream, chocolate chip cookie dough, it's vanilla ice cream cookie dough, but you also have the chocolate chips. The chocolate chips add a bit of crunch, also the chocolate flavor, but the vanilla ice cream is nice and cookie dough is goated. That's really good. If you were to do like chocolate fudge ice cream where the chocolate ice cream is the base and then also there's more chocolate and then also there's a fudge, it's like, come on, that's too much for me. I think chocolate's fairly overrated. Schaefer on YouTube asks, what is your favorite sandwich? Probably a hot chicken sandwich of some kind, either like a fried chicken patty or a grilled chicken. And then you can put literally anything else on there you want. But like, I don't know that I could pick one. But if it's going to be a sandwich, it's going to be a chicken sandwich of some kind. IZR or LZR, Laser Shadow, maybe, on YouTube asks, what's your favorite candy? Caramel creams. They're fucking goated and also really bad for you and also very addictive. Getz's caramel creams. This shit is absolutely nuts. Look at this. Doesn't that just look appealing? It's soft caramel with the cream-filled center. It looks like your mother. And sorry. And it's pretty good. It's a lot of sugar. It's really bad for you, but it's tasty. They're also pretty hipster, I think. I'm not usually hearing people talking about them. Prust Kunk on Twitter asks, waffles, pancakes, or the obvious winner, French toast? French toast, obviously. Then waffles, then pancakes. Soup Boy and Dirt Note, YouTube and Discord respectively, ask, favorite type of pasta? Probably fettuccine. I like the flat noodle. I think it's nice. When it comes to like pasta dishes, fettuccine Alfredo, pretty goated. Can't go wrong with like a jalapeno mac and cheese. Also very nice. Scorp Ion on YouTube asks, what's your favorite type of cheese? Probably mozzarella. Mozzarella. You know, mozzarella. Pretty good. Can't go wrong. Orangutan on Twitter asks, favorite snack? Probably, currently anyway, Greek yogurt. Flavored. Pretty good. So it's pretty low calorie. Got some good nutrients, protein, whatever. Also, it's a sweet snack, which I like, and it's relatively healthy. Not bad. And then Hell's Fortune asks, crunchy or creamy? You imagine this is a question about, and that's on Discord, you imagine that's a question about peanut butter. So on the point of peanut butter, creamy. I've never really liked the weird texture elements of crunchy peanut butter. It's just not for me. When it comes to, in general, I don't know. You want to have both, really. So I guess crunchy peanut butter does have both. That could be cool, maybe. But like, I don't know, like you want a variety of textures. You don't usually want to just pick one. But if I had to pick one, I feel like it'd probably be creamy, but I don't know. Creamy peanut butter is better than crunchy, in my opinion. And yeah, that's that. Let's go. We finally got through it all. Another 1.5 hour banger. Sorry I wasn't the most elaborate in a lot of these questions. for one, I don't know how elaborate I could be. For two, I'm trying not to make this another 2-hour VOD for Hyperaggressive. And for three, my ADHD is flaring up because I don't have my, I didn't take my 10 milligrams of methamphetamine today because of a variety of bullshit. So, like, I'm not in the zone. I think I did pretty good, though, overall. Hope you had a fun time. Hope you had a good time peering under the hood of the CONURE machine, I guess. Hope I'm not too tremendously boring for you. And have a great day. This video is kind of called as Nini. Thanks for your continued support, and congrats on your second win. Pretty poggers. If you'd like to be the next Conor CALLOUT, all you can do is follow me on Twitter, @ConorCC. Retweet my video links when they go live. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Put the notification on when you hit the bell. Appreciate that as well. Make sure you leave a like if you'd like. Comment something about how the 35K Q&A didn't need to be 3 parts, but that you appreciated that it was. Have a good day.